The gate creaked open. The women froze. They had seen gates like this before, and they knew what always waited beyond them. But not this time. Beyond the wire came laughter. Real laughter. Deep, human, impossible laughter. The guards were smiling, not sneering, and for a brief, terrifying moment, no one knew whether to cry or run. One woman whispered, "Is this another trick?" No one answered, because in war, kindness was often just the silence before cruelty. But that morning, something was different. The war had already stolen everything except the instinct to survive. Winter, 1945. The end was near, but no one knew how near. A convoy of exhausted prisoners rattled down a dirt road in southern Germany. Women, mostly, former nurses, Red Cross workers, a few civilians caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Among them was Anna Weiss, a 27-year-old Austrian translator who had seen both sides of the war and trusted neither. She kept her eyes down. Her hands clutched a torn coat that still smelled of smoke. Every breath tasted of diesel and fear. Every step echoed in silence. They had been marched from camp to camp for weeks, fleeing the collapsing German lines. Some whispered that the Americans were coming. Others said the Russians were worse. Most just prayed to see another sunrise. Anna didn't pray anymore. She had stopped believing in mercy long ago. The road ended at a fenced compound, rows of wooden huts and watchtowers silhouetted against a bruised sky. An American flag fluttered above the gate, but to them, flags meant nothing. One of the women murmured, "Another camp." Her voice broke on the last word. The gate opened, and fear walked in with them. Inside, it smelled the same as everywhere else: smoke, sweat, damp earth. A place where people disappeared. They were herded toward a large hut, a man in a crisp uniform. An American officer said something none of them understood, but his tone wasn't cruel. He pointed toward a table lined with bread and metal cups. Food, real food. No one moved. Anna looked at the bread as if it might explode. She had seen it before, German soldiers offering soup, only to laugh as they kicked it over. So she waited for the shout, the slap, the punishment that always followed hope. But nothing came. The officer nodded, gestured again. "Please, eat." The word "please" hit her harder than hunger ever had. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. The hut was warm. The blankets were real. Yet her heart kept racing, as if any moment the truth would reveal itself. She whispered into the dark, "If this is freedom, why does it feel like a trap?" But that day, something changed. Kindness was the last thing they expected to survive. The days passed, slowly, confusingly. The camp, as they called it, wasn't what they knew from before. There were fences, yes, but open gates too. Armed guards, but with soft eyes. The women were allowed to wash, to eat, to rest. Anna couldn't understand it. She watched a guard, a young American with a Texas accent, hand his coat to one of the older women. The woman trembled, waiting for the joke. But the guard just smiled and walked away. That night, the barracks buzzed with disbelief. "Maybe they want to keep us alive for propaganda," one said. "Or they're waiting for orders," said another. Anna listened, silent. She wanted to believe there was some trick behind it, because if this was real kindness, then everything she thought she knew about war was wrong. Each day brought new contradictions. A radio played music, jazz, cheerful and strange. A nurse came by to check their wounds. Books appeared in the mess hall. One afternoon, Anna saw a young soldier trying to repair a broken kettle. He cursed softly when the lid fell off. She laughed, without meaning to. The soldier looked up and grinned. It was the first time she had smiled in years. But she didn't know the truth yet. They were not prisoners. They were protected persons, refugees, technically, found wandering after a German convoy had abandoned them. The Americans had taken them in until they could be safely released. But no one had told the women that, and so every act of kindness felt like a trap waiting to close. When the guards let them walk near the fences, Anna's heart raced. She expected the gunshot, but none came. When she saw a soldier kneel to help a child tie his shoe, she looked away. Because it hurt. It hurt to see humanity in a place where she thought it had died. If this was kindness, she thought, why did it make me want to cry? One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, an American officer entered their hut. He placed a box on the table, filled with letters. "Mail," he said. "We'll try to find where to send them." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, the women began to write. Anna wrote too. She didn't know if her family was alive, didn't know where home was anymore. She just wrote one line, "I am somewhere safe. I don't understand why." The next morning, she found a note on her bed, written in careful German, because not everyone in war forgets how to be human. She never found out who wrote it, but she kept it, folded like a secret, close to her heart. Sometimes freedom begins when you stop expecting cruelty. By March 1945, the war's final breath was near. Rumors of Germany's collapse reached even the camp. The women gathered in small circles, whispering about home, about lost families, about what they would do if they ever left. Anna didn't speak. She only listened. She had begun to watch the guards differently now, not as enemies, but as men far from home. One afternoon, she saw that same Texan guard. His name was Miller. She had learned, sitting by the fence, scribbling in a small notebook. Curiosity overcame fear. She walked closer. He looked up, startled, then smiled. "Afternoon, ma'am." She frowned. She wasn't used to being called ma'am. He closed his notebook and said softly, "You folks been through hell." Anna hesitated. Then, in broken English, whispered, "We thought we'd die here." Miller shook his head. "Not here, ma'am. Not anymore." He tore a page from his notebook and handed it to her. It was a sketch of the camp, the trees, the women standing by the barracks. Gentle lines, full of life. "You draw?" she asked. He nodded. "Helps me remember we're still people." That night, Anna stared at the drawing for hours. It was the first time she'd seen herself through someone else's kindness. Days passed, and trust grew, awkwardly, hesitantly. One woman volunteered to help in the kitchen. Another began teaching English words in exchange for recipes. Laughter returned, quietly at first, then louder. Someone found a piano in a storage shed. And on a Sunday evening, for the first time, music filled the camp. The women stood outside, eyes wet with disbelief. Anna whispered, "If my mother could hear this, she'd think the war was over." But it wasn't. Not yet. A week later, a new group arrived, men this time, gaunt and silent. They were German POWs. The women froze. Their enemies, the same uniforms that had destroyed their homes. Miller approached Anna quietly. "They'll be kept separate," he said. "You're safe." But Anna couldn't look away. One of the POWs, young, pale, caught her gaze. For a heartbeat, she saw the same fear in his eyes that once lived in hers. And she realized, war didn't choose sides for suffering. That night, she wrote in her notebook, "I used to think mercy was weakness. Now I think it's the only strength that survives." Days blurred into weeks. The snow melted. Letters began to arrive. One morning, the officer called out names. Families had been found. Some of the women would be sent home. When Anna heard her name, she didn't move. Home. The word felt like something from another life. Miller found her sitting alone near the fence. "Why aren't you packing?" he asked gently. She smiled faintly. "I forgot what home means." He nodded. "Maybe it's something you find again, not somewhere you go back to." For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said, "When you walk out that gate, remember, not all uniforms are the same." Anna's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Not all hearts either." The gate that once meant fear now meant something else. April 1945. The day came when the trucks lined up outside the camp. Freedom, real this time. The women stood in silence, bags clutched tight. The same gate that had once swallowed their hope now stood open, sunlight spilling through. Anna looked back at the camp, at the guards waving, at the flag fluttering above. Miller approached, handing her the sketch he'd made. "I thought you might want this," he said. She nodded, unable to speak. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a folded note. "From one of your letters," he said. "You wrote, 'I am somewhere safe. I don't understand why.'" Anna looked up, surprised. He smiled. "Now you do." She bit her lip, trying not to cry. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." He shook his head. "No, ma'am. Thank you for reminding me why we came here." She stepped forward, hesitated, then hugged him. Just once, brief and trembling. When she stepped back, the words she'd been afraid to say finally came out. "Maybe we all were prisoners," she said softly, "until we learned how to forgive." Miller nodded. "Maybe that's what freedom really is." The truck rumbled to life. The women climbed aboard. As it rolled away, Anna watched the camp disappear behind a cloud of dust, the fences shrinking, the flag fading into the distance. And in her hand, the sketch, a memory of a place where kindness had survived the war. Years later, in her small home near Vienna, Anna kept that sketch framed above her desk. When visitors asked what it was, she would only smile and say, "It's where I learned that enemies can be human." Sometimes, on quiet nights, she would take out the note, the one written in careful German all those years ago. Because not everyone in war forgets how to be human. She would touch it gently, close her eyes, and whisper, "War took everything, but humanity gave it back."